Who would have thought that Royal Paladin actually would get a Countercharger? Also, Gancelot happened. And a lot of other stuff. Let's talk about that.
Stand up! Vanguard!
Hey Cardfighters, welcome back to another Cardfight update, and today we've got some very awesome, exciting news in the whole picture for the upcoming big booster set that's basically Miyagi Academy Set 2. As not only did we saw the first VR and a new Royal Paladin support, we also got some insight in the entire set as what we're going to get, all the VR's complete artwork, and some extra miscellaneous information concerning different clan distribution. So let's just dive into the news as there's a lot to talk about, and concerning the VR for Royal Paladin, there is a lot to digest as it's a doozy. So first off, let's take a look at all the new VRs that has been revealed, as well as the artwork and their complete name, as there are some familiar faces as well as a new one between them. First off, we already seen this one, that's the VR for Royal Paladin, that is Solitary Knight Gancelot. We saw it on the box cover, as well as we're going to see today with the official reveal of the card. Then second off, we've got the new Tsukiyomi. We already were a little bit teased about this artwork in a magazine. Now we finally can see the whole picture, and there's the artwork is a little bit odd, as one, this isn't really something we would expect for Tsukiyomi, but not only that, she doesn't have any background. This is the first time that we've seen a unit without a background, and it's not like they just didn't fill in the background. No, the whiteness is the background. There is no background for this card. So I'm very curious what they're going to do with this card and how the artwork might look when we finally see it on the actual card. Then next up, we've got the new VR for Nubatama, and this is the new unit that is Shura Stealth Dragon Yamo Kongo. And Yamo Kongo already sounds similar to Kujiri Kiri Kongo, and as we're going to see in a moment, it's because it's probably going to do a similar thing like Kujikiri Kongo. So I'm very curious of what this card is going to do and maybe build on top of the archetype that is Kujikiri Kongo. So I'm very excited for this, and the artwork itself looks really awesome. How this dragon ninja thing with all the aesthetics around it with the blades and the kunais and everything. It looks really solid. The next up, we've got a very hype one for Narukami. That is Eradicator Gauntler Buster Dragon. And this artwork is really good, and it screams a very powerful VR, so I'm very excited and very curious when this thing is going to be revealed, what it's going to be. And you bet your ass that I'm going to do deck profile on this card and put it in my deck and maybe even see some play footage from it, as I'm very hyped for this. And then finally, we see the new Gold Paladin Ezel card, and that's Blonde Lion Platinum Ezel. It's another Ezel card. It's probably gonna replace one of the two Ezels, but there is a downside to this card, as we're gonna see in a moment, that not a lot of Gold Paladin players might like. So let's dive into that news, because besides the VR reveals, their name and their artwork, we also saw the amount of cards each clan is going to get supported, as well as their main support line, what it's going to do. So for Royal Paladin, we know it's going to have 21 cards, and their support line is going to be focused around Blaster Blade. So it's going to power up Blaster Blade, it's going to work with Blaster Blade, synergize with Blaster Blade, and we're already seeing it with the 3 cards that were revealed today that we're going to talk about in the second year, as it's really Blaster Blade centric, and we're probably going to see that with a lot of other cards coming for this set. Then for Oracle Think Tank, we have a total of 22 cards for them in this set, and their support type is gonna be around the popular unit Tsukiyomi, and the ability to control the order of the deck has evolved further, as quoted by Bushiroad themselves. So how far do we now can have control about our deck? Can we have the same thing that we have in the past? We can stack a couple of cards bottom of the deck and then keep doing it, and then we know the deck? Or are we going to do it more direct and maybe manipulate our deck in such a way that we can basically change the order of cards or something? So I'm very curious of how far they're going to take this and how strong that can be. Very excited for that. Then next up, we have Gold Paladin, and here's the big yikes, as Gold Paladin only has 5 new cards in this set. Yes, 5. And you might say, well, that can be really good cards. Well, let me clarify one thing. One of those is the VR. That's good. Then another one is going to be a crit trigger. Then another one is going to be a third front trigger. Then another one is probably going to be a grade 1 perfect guard that's on the right, draw 1, drop 1. And the last one is probably going to be a new starter or a new vanilla card. Yes, please press F in the chat for all the Gold Paladin players out there, as that's probably not that great for them. Then next up for the Dragon Empire clans, Narukami is going to get a whopping 22 cards in this set, and they're going to focus on the things they've already been focusing, powering up their units because our opponent has less units on the field, and more binding, and binding. So all the good stuff. Very excited for that. Then next up we have Nubatama, and they're only going to get 10 cards in this set, so not a lot, but the focus of this set is going to be mainly about reducing our opponent's hand size, so letting them discard. And this is what I was referring to, as his name is similar to Kujigiri Kongo, that it's probably going to build on that archetype, and I'm very excited for that and happy for that, as that was more my favorite sub-archetype between the Nubatama, between Gatsu Storm and Kujigiri Kongo, so I'm very happy that they're going to build on top of that. Maybe they're going to come back at Mugatsu Storm later in future support when they actually know how to build upon that. But for now, discard is going to be the main thing, and I'm very excited for that. So with that all out of the way, let's take a look at the 3 new cards for Royal Paladin that was actually revealed today and analyze how this might impact the clan, as it is a big difference. Because first off, we got this very exciting card. Yes, Royal Paladin finally has a Countercharger, as this grade 1 Pluck Enchanter has the skill Auto Rigid Circle once per turn when your Blaster Blade is placed, Soul Charge 1, and if there are no face-up cards in your damage zone, Countercharge 1. So alas, it's a very restricted Countercharger, as you need to call a Blaster Blade, and then at that same time you don't need to have any counterblast face up. So it's very limited in that sense, but they finally get a Countercharger, and this can enable a lot of aggression, as now Royal Paladin players can say, well, I probably can have one Counterblast each in turn because I'm gonna call Blaster Blade. I'm able to call Blaster Blade each turn, so you know what? I'm gonna go full aggro, use all my Counterblast for all these scenarios, and only leave one face up. Why? Because if you're using the Alfred's Great Freeze, you can use their Counterblast to flip your last Counterblast face down, Superior Call Blaster Blade, then use this skill to countercharge that one Counterblast. And with that, you can save up a lot of extra Counterblast. So overall, pretty good. It has some scenarios, it has some limitations, but finally Royal Paladin can put that meme to rest and do some more shenanigan play. So very happy for them, they finally get a Countercharge. Then next up we've got another great one, and that's this one, Knight of Harp Tristan, and its skill is Auto Rigid Circle. When placed, if your Vanguard is a grade 3 or greater, cost Counterblast 1, search your deck for up to 1 Blaster Blade, reveal it and put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. So basically this is another way to search out for Blaster Blade. Yes, we already got the Alfreds that can do this, but now we can also do it with a rearguard skill, and as we're going to see with the new VR, with Gancelot, you need all the searches for Blaster Blade as much as you can, as you want to have them to your disposal whenever you can. And the reason why they probably put the grade 3 restriction on it is because they don't want to give you a very consistent way to ride Blaster Blade as your grade 2 with the potential crit and all that kind of stuff. As we're going to see with Gancelot, they got enough pressure with other turns because of that. So they want to get it a little bit balanced. But overall, very good support card for the Blaster archetype, or basically Blasters in general. So pretty neat. Then we're going to come to the big boss monster of this deck, and that is their VR Solitary Knight Gancelot. And as you're going to see with this skill, he is everything but solitary, because he got 2 continuous Vanguard skills. His first one is all the Blaster Blades on your Vanguard or Rearguard circle get power plus 10k. So this is a little bit odd. It has the same skill as the Monarch Alfred that gives the Blaster Blade plus 10k, but not 5k shield, so it's a little bit worse than that. But what's odd about it, that it states Vanguard Circle. So when I saw that, I was like, how does that work? But then I read the second skill, and then it makes a whole lot of sense. As the second skill is Continuous Vanguard Circle. During your turn, if your opponent's Vanguard is a grade 3 or greater, your front row circles with Blaster Blade on them becomes a Vanguard Circle. Vanguard Circle abilities activate and perform drive checks. So basically, it turns your Blaster Blade in a second or third Vanguard. You will have multiple Vanguards for that turn. That's pretty insane, because there are a lot of things you can think about what kind of results this card can have. In the obvious things, you can call out one Blaster Blade thanks to Tristan, and it will have a extra drive check. So you have twin drive for your Vanguard and another drive check for your Rearguard. So 3 drive checks in one turn. It also can have potentially have a crit, as seen as Blaster Blade's Vanguard skill is that if you have 4 Rearguards, you have an extra crit. So you can also have an extra pressure crit. Then if you have 2 Blaster Blades, you can do that with 2 Blaster Blades. So you can have twin drive, single drive, single drive. Very, very powerful. The only thing to note is that when you do that, you lose the last rearguard circle that you need for Blaster Blade's crit, as you only have 3 more rearguard circles, and those are in the back row. And because of that, you can no longer fulfill this condition for the crit, so when you have 2 Blaster Blades in your front row, they are just 10k swing with 1 single drive. But as you already saw with this explanation, there are some interesting rulings going on with Gancelot, and Bushiroad also released a small Q&A to clarify some mishaps or some awkward things that can happen while looking at this card skill, to clarify all these kinds of scenarios. So we're gonna go over basically all the points and clarify how this works, as to remove all kinds of potential problems or misconceptions about the card. So first off, the circles that the Blaster Blade is on is turned into a Vanguard circle. It's no longer a rearguard circle, so you can never regard that Blaster Blade as a rearguard. So any kind of skill that needs to work with a Blaster Blade on a rearguard circle can no longer work with Blaster Blade, as it's turned into a Vanguard circle thanks to Gancelot's skill. So as I explained beforehand, when you call a second Blaster Blade, you can no longer fulfill for the condition as its crit, as you only have 3 rearguard circles left on your field. Unless you can have an Axle circle, but that's a whole nother topic for this. Then also an interesting thing about this card is that, yes, you now have 2 or 3 Vanguards. So that means in your right phase, you can ride on any of these 3 units, whichever you pick. So you can ride a new grade 3 on top of one of the 2 Blaster Blades. And when you do that, the following things will happen. When you ride a grade 3 on a Blaster Blade that's on a new Vanguard circle, first off, that Blaster Blade is moved to the soul. But you only have 1 actual soul, so it moves beneath your Gancelot. That's the first thing. Then, if that new grade 3 has a force marker, then yes, you will acquire that force marker. Then after that, if that unit that you've ridden just on top of the Blaster Blade, if that has a right skill, that right skill will activate. Even though if it's a Vanguard right skill, it will still activate, because the moment that you ride it, it's still in a Vanguard circle. When you resolve that, then at that point, Gancelot continuous skill will fizzle out, as that new unit isn't a Blaster Blade. So it will no longer be on a Vanguard circle. So from that point onward, it's then regarded as a rearguard circle. But if you call a new Blaster Blade on top of it, because you now can call in that circle again, as it's a rearguard circle, it will change back into a Vanguard circle. So the thing that you can potentially do is ride a Monarch onto your Blaster Blade that's on a rearguard Vanguard circle. It's very confusing, but if you follow me with this one, ride it on top of that new Blaster Blade, then put that Blaster Blade into the soul, gain a force marker, then resolve Monarch's right skill to soul blast that Blaster Blade, then get it back to hand. That Monarch is now back on the rearguard circle, and then you can now call a Blaster Blade on top of the Monarch. Monarch removes back to the drop zone, and Blaster Blade is a Vanguard again. And you just acquired an extra force marker when you couldn't rewrite a new Gancelot. So there are some workarounds to get some new force markers, even though you cannot rewrite your Gancelot. But that's basically the main thing for standard. But at the same time, now we're going to the premium aspect, as you probably already guessed things that can happen with this card. Yes, you can stride on top of it, because it's a Vanguard circle. And for stride, the only thing that you need is that you have a grade 3 Vanguard and your opponent has a grade 3 Vanguard. Well, the fun part of it, when Gancelot turns your Blaster Blades into a Vanguard circle, that means your opponent has a grade 3 and your Gancelot is a grade 3. So you can stride that turn. But you can stride on any of your Vanguard circles, so you can just stride on top of Blaster Blade. The good part about it is that Blaster Blade will retain its name even though you stride, as it now has 2 names. So it will be a Vanguard circle even though there's now a grade 4 stride unit on top of it. This means it will have triple drive and you have your twin drive Vanguard. You can all think of all kinds of shenanigans with the Gancelot stride that has now quad drive, and you can have a twin drive Gancelot and then call another Blaster Blade that is now your third Vanguard that has a single drive, so you can have 7 drive checks. You can do this with the Peace Saber that can have triple drive, twin drive, all this kinds of stuff. But at the same time, it's not really that great for premium in the Blaster engine, as the Blaster engine revolves around calling a Blaster Blade, then give it a lot of power, drive check a lot of crits, and then swing with the Blaster Blade with high power multiple crits, and then use your flow gold to restand that Blaster Blades. Well, there are some issues with this, because, as I stated before, Blaster Blade is now a Vanguard. Your Blaster Blade rearguard in the front row is now regarded as a Vanguard circle. All these cards that interacted with that engine requires you to have a Blaster Blade rearguard, as Flogel, the crit trigger, restands a rearguard Blaster Blade. So it doesn't work. You cannot restand it, as it's a Vanguard. Also, stand triggers exist in Premium. Stand triggers can only stand rearguard. So even though you have this stride unit that looks like it's on a rearguard circle, it's actually a Vanguard circle in your left or right column. So you can no longer stand it if you drive check a stand trigger. So those are things you need to keep in mind when resolving this. Also, what I've seen online is a lot of people talking about Blaster Blade Exceed. That doesn't work with this card as well, as Gancelot specifically requires a unit called Blaster Blade. Not with Blaster Blade since card named, it needs to be Blaster Blade. So using Blaster Blade Exceed doesn't work with this interaction. So that was a lot of information to go over, as most of this was just to clarify the rulings behind this, as something like Gancelot will have a lot of ruling nightmare behind it. But the main thing that you need to keep in mind is that 1, you need to have a Blaster Blade unit, specifically Blaster Blade. 2, that circle it's on is now regarded as a Vanguard circle, so that unit is a Vanguard. So treat it as if it is your Vanguard. You need to see it as a second or third Vanguard and nothing else. And third, just have fun with the card. But that's basically everything for the reveals today. Let me know in the comments down below what you're excited for. Is the new Royal Paladin stuff, the information that we got for your favorite clan, maybe Nubatama, OTT for Tsukiyomi, Gold Paladin, well yeah, probably not Gold Paladin, but maybe one of the others. Let me know in the comments down below what you're excited for, and even if you, what's your opinion about the new Gancelot. I know it's a ruling nightmare, but it's still a fun card, and it gives Royal Paladin some insane pushing power. As always, I want to thank my supporters over at Patreon for making this video possible. You guys are amazing. If you do want to support me on Patreon, then head over to patreon.com/VanguardInsider and become a patron today. But with that said, I'm Mr. Time Leap, and I'll see you guys in the next one.